Right, welcome along to the RT Soccer Podcast. Raf Diallo here. As always, you can watch or listen in on loads of platforms from YouTube and RT.ie to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Lots to chat about on today's podcast, from Shamrock Rovers and St. Pat's progress in Europe, the FAI Cup weekend, and the first round of action of the new Premier League season. So to do that and more, I'm joined by former Shamrock Rovers Bows and Pat's goalkeeper Barry Murphy and former St. Pat's Shells and Sporting Fingal midfielder Conan Byrne. Lads, how are you all keeping?
Not bad, Raf, not bad.
Not too
Yeah.
bad, man.
Good stuff. Now, before we get on to the League of Ireland clubs in Europe, first off, just to note, all Nations League games for the Republic of Ireland men's side will be live on RT2 and the RT Player, starting with that small game against England on the 7th of September, which of course is Heimer Hog Crimson's first game in charge of the Ireland men's team. And then the women's playoff in October will also be on RTE, and all of the Euro 2025 next summer too. The home leg against Georgia in the playoff will be at Tallaght Stadium, with the home game in the second round at the Aviva Stadium. And obviously we just have to wait and see what opponent that is going to be, and also Ireland have to try and qualify for it as well. But the League of Ireland and Europe, some great results last week with Shamrock Rovers beating Celje and St. Pat's beating FC Sabah. And let's start on Shamrock Rovers. 3-2 on aggregate over NK Celje of Slovenia, and they guarantee their place in the Conference League group stages while going into the Europa League playoff tie against PAOK, and it guarantees Rovers a minimum 3.1 million euros, which will obviously be very good for the coffers. We'll listen to Graham Burke very shortly, but I suppose, Barry, first off, just that moment when he scores, obviously the goalkeeper, and as a goalkeeper yourself, I'm sure you'll have a lot to say about it, but it's a great moment, I suppose, for Rovers, not so much for the opposition.
Yeah, you're trying to counterbalance it really as a commentator, especially as a goalkeeping commentator. You're trying to display how good the goal was as well, but how awful the goalkeeping was as well from Stubler. And he had a really bad night giving away the penalty as well earlier on, and he just never recovered from it. He's on loan from Italy. He's only a 20-year-old goalkeeper. He's very young to be playing at that level, but he was good over there. He made a couple of saves over there, but he just looked dodgy all night. And I think it was a brilliant performance from Shamrock Rovers, Raf. You know, they got it tactically spot on, and there were moans and groans when Graham Burke and Jack Byrne weren't in the starting lineup, but Stephen got it tactically spot on, you know. I think they were a little arrogant coming over just from a couple of his interviews. Rieras, I listened to the interview after the game about how the pitch was a great leveler and it would be different over in Tallaght. And how his side would really thrive playing on that Tallaght pitch. And but there's just a lot of arrogance going into that. And Stephen mentioned it after the game about his team talk, that was incorporated into that team talk as well. Even the way they pressed Rovers, they really didn't give them any sort of pressing ability. They didn't push right up on them at all. And to give Neil Ferrugia that space, and then Graham Burke later on, like anyone that looks at Shamrock Rovers over the last couple of seasons sees that Neil Ferrugia tries in that space, and Graham Burke just can't be given space at the edge of the box, so they were punished for that arrogance.
Yeah, and let's listen to Graham Burke, who obviously scored the clincher in a sense. He was speaking to Tony O'Donoghue afterwards.
Graham Burke, that's your 9th European goal, and what an important one it was.
Yeah, it's obviously a massive one for the team, for the lads obviously sitting there on the bench, hoping to come on and try and have an impact in the game, so I'm delighted to obviously get the winner.
Going to extra time though, what did you think?
Listen, you know, obviously we conceded the goal, you know, we obviously knew we had it in us to go and score another goal, and lucky enough we did, but obviously they're a good side, they moved as well, and lucky enough we came out on the winning side.
Describe the goal for me.
Listen, I obviously just driving where I'm looking for Shani on the overlap, and they're obviously backing off, so I just fancied hitting it, so lucky enough I got a bit of luck with the keeper too, so yeah, delighted to see it at the back of the net.
European football clearly suits you.
Oh yeah, obviously we have a good European campaign now to look forward to, so we're all delighted.
Well done.
Thank you, Tom. Yes, thank you.
Graham Burke there after scoring the extra time winner, which obviously settled the tie and sends Shamrock Rovers, at least guarantees them Europa Conference League group stages, but also keeps their chances of possibly getting into the Europa League group stages alive. But as you're saying, Barry, Celje kind of sat off, which was kind of interesting in a sense, and as you alluded to, there was a sense of arrogance. I think Stephen Bradley afterwards also sort of alluded to, you know, the opposition not giving them respect, so to speak. But really, the moment that swung the tie and brought Shamrock Rovers back into it again, the goalkeeper is culpable, and it's the opening penalty.
Yeah, I think Rovers probably didn't create too much over there, and maybe it lulled them into a false sense of security about how good Rovers actually can be when they're on form. And yeah, they played a 4-3-3 over here and leaving a lot of space for Ferrugia in behind, and that was suicidal. Like he twisted the manage up at the back, and made a triple substitution at half time. He was that despondent with the whole setup, and the penalty was just a mad one. It's a long ball in from Sean Hoare to the edge of the box, and the goalkeeper, as the goalkeeper, when the ball's coming in like that, and his initial front step is to go forward and try and win it, you're thinking to yourself, I've come this far now. If somebody flicks it on, it's a goal, so I've got to come and finish off that motion, and he does it, and Aaron Green actually gets a push into the goalkeeper. So when you're looking back on VAR, he could have picked either penalty really, but he doesn't see it. I don't know what the ref sees at the time, whether he thinks the goalkeeper gets a glove on it or what, but he goes straight to Aaron Green, and we called it up in commentary straight away. It was obvious to everyone in the stadium, bar the ref, that it was a Stonewall penalty. But from then, it just Rovers had deserved that. They'd been all over them the first 10-15 minutes, and then obviously the Neil Ferrugia goal to put them 2-0 up was another goal as well, where you're looking at the defence going, we called it as kind of saying, looking at each other, basically, do we back off him? Do we run with him? He's just so prevalent in that situation. He's such speed and skill as well, and the finish just hasn't been there from Neil Ferrugia, but thankfully on the night it was.
Yeah, he's been doing a lot of work with the Incision Football guys, which is a sort of program he's been involved in. I'm speaking to them last year, just in terms of, it's not about like the technique or anything like that. It's about being in the right positions, and obviously it showed up there. But obviously Conan from the other side of it, then Celje, they managed to equalise late on, and that can be a huge psychological blow. So for Rovers to recover from that, go into extra time, find another gear and another goal, obviously with the goalkeeper somewhat culpable again, it does point to some resilience in the squad.
Absolutely. I worried about them, Raf, when that goal went in, just because of the fact that Celje were on the front foot at that particular time, and then going into extra time. It's just the psychological impact that it could have on your team. But obviously, what Stephen Bradley, Glenn Cronin, what the lads said to them at full time was just to push on. They saw the vulnerability in that Celje side. And Graham Burke picked on it there in his interview. They backed off him and he decided to have a crack. And when you have a goalkeeper that's kind of a little bit at 20 years of age, a little bit of inexperience, concentration mightn't be what it should be. There's no reason why Graham Burke wouldn't have a pop. And yeah, you can see the result of it. But like, there was some unbelievable performances on the night. I thought Roberto Lopez was absolutely phenomenal. Probably, like, obviously I haven't seen every Shamrock Rovers game, but he's certainly the best game that I've seen him play in a Shamrock Rovers shirt. Dylan Watts was excellent in midfield. Obviously Neil Ferrugia with his goal as well, and just as Barry mentioned, the space that he finds and that he can get into, and his goal was top notch as well. So I think Stephen Bradley would be delighted with obviously the result, but also the performance and how his side picked themselves up from that concession of the goal with 6-7 minutes to go in the game, and to go on into extra time and get through into the next round. It's a huge achievement and great result for the players.
Yeah, and let's listen to Stephen Bradley now, Shamrock Rovers head coach. He was also texting Stephen Kenny, his Pat's counterpart, before the game as well, hoping that both sides would get through their respective ties. And he also talks about what it means for the league and Shamrock Rovers' performance as well.
Stephen, have you had a moment to reflect on the achievement of Shamrock Rovers and indeed St. Pat's tonight and what it means for the league?
It's a brilliant night. Myself and Stephen were texting earlier, wishing each other luck, obviously, and saying how good it would be if both of us could get through and try to get to the groups, and we've done it, and I hope Pats can follow us. It can only be a good thing for the league as a whole.
Tonight was so dramatic, went to extra time. You needed all your resources, you needed your bench to come through. So exciting, and tonight, I've never seen it before, VAR played a really important part.
Yeah, we were told after the goalkeeper made the challenge, we were told there was a penalty from our video analysis, and then when you seen it on VAR, it was quite clear, and we just asked the fourth official to make sure it went to VAR, and to be fair, he did. And yeah, once the ref seen the screen, it was quite clear what he was going to do.
Ferrugia added goals to his game tonight, and I mean, that's something you've always been saying. He's got all the makings, and what a finish. Yeah,
incredible. He probably should have scored just before that, and yeah, you're just trying to free up that mind of his and when in that final third just to go and do what he's done, because he has that quality. And there was times tonight he was unplayable for them. They couldn't get near him. He kept penetrating him. And we felt over there the pitch, but you could see he had to beat him. And we felt on this pitch he caused them real problems, and he did that.
They brought it to added time, extra time, because of scoring in the 83rd minute. Kind of too many complaints about the goal, I guess.
No, sometimes you just get done by a bit of quality. He's chipped it to the back post. The boy who scored is not long back from the Euros. He's a top player, and you could see that with his finish. He didn't snatch it. It was just a side foot into the far corner. And sometimes you got to hold your hand up and say, you know what, we've been done by a bit of quality there.
Then Graham Burke, who's now scored 9 goals in European competition. I think that's the leading goal scorer for Shamrock Rovers in Europe, and he's done it again.
Yeah, look, we've been trying to get Graham and Jack up to speed the last few weeks, and they're slowly getting there. But I did say to Graham during the week he'd win us the game tonight, and because with that quality, you put him in front of goal 25, 30 yards on that left foot, and it's danger, and they didn't respect us all night. They didn't respect us pre-game, so you could see that press was leaving big spaces, and Graham exploited them.
So you've got group stage guaranteed, but next week you play PAOK for a Europa League playoff place. Exciting times, busy times.
Yeah, it's exactly what we want. I spoke when we got groups the last time that we didn't want to wait 10, 15 years as a club to be back there. We wanted to be back there and test ourselves. We've guaranteed that now, but we want to try go one better and see can we go Europa League. That's the aim, and that'll be the aim. Can we go over there and bring it back to Tallaght like tonight, and bring back here anything's possible.
All right, so that is Stephen Bradley there speaking to Tony O'Donoghue after the second leg there in Tallaght Stadium last week. And it's an enviable position, Barry, I suppose, to be in that, in the back pocket you have Conference League and all the financial rewards that come with that, and the great European nights that will come to Tallaght Stadium over this sort of autumn and winter period. But the fact that there's also the possibility of Europa League group stages, which it's going to be tough. Obviously, PAOK are going to be, they're a tough team. We'll chat to Conan a little bit about what to expect from them, but it is a bit of a free hit, and at least there's something guaranteed in the back pocket.
Yeah, I wouldn't let Stephen Bradley hear you say that, the free hit. He's already mentioned to speak about how he hates that term, but you're right, it really is. They can go there without any fear. Like they've done the donkey work, and the Viking match was massive to set this ball rolling, and then to produce that performance again in Sparta without getting the result at the end of it, and to now go and beat Celje, which are established European side. They were vying for group stages themselves, but now they put themselves in a position where they can really enjoy it and express themselves. And I think that's where Rovers have done really well this year. When they've gone out and enjoyed it, they looked at they've had a weight on their shoulders in the league about trying to go on and make this historic 5 in a row, and it looks like it's borne the brunt of that kind of pressure this season so far. But in Europe, they've been exceptional, so they'll go over there full of confidence going in. But again, it's another step up, a huge team. PAOK, these are seasoned team in and out of Europe every season, so yeah, it's another step up.
Yeah, and in terms of PAOK, what can Shamrock Rovers expect, Conan? Because as Barry has said there, they're going to be a tough team. I think we see them in Europe all the time. I think in the last few years in Greece, they've got, which used to be like a big three sort of league where you had Panathinaikos, AEK, Athens and Olympiacos. Those three were the dominant ones. PAOK have made it a big four over there. And I think even Shamrock Rovers, of course, their first Europa League campaign, that's one of the opponents that they faced in that group stage all those many years ago.
Yeah, I just think that, when you look at a team that have played a League of Ireland team in Europe only a couple of years ago, obviously Bows played PAOK in the Aviva Stadium, and I think it was 3-2 in aggregate, and you're expecting maybe similar type of levels of player this time around. It's not. They've gone up a gear, gone up another couple of gears. Got to the quarterfinals of the Europa Conference League last year, obviously losing to Club Bruges. So these are really good players. So, like, for instance, Kamara at the back, he played Serie A football for Roma, for instance. There's Abdul Baba, who played Premier League football for Chelsea, and Brandon Thomas played La Liga for Osasuna. So there's just 3 players right through the spine of the team that have played top 5 league football in the last couple of years, the last couple of seasons. And only one player has played in the Aviva Stadium against Bohemians, started the game against Malmo, where they were defeated 6-5 in aggregate, and that's Zivkovic, a Serbian international that obviously played in the Euros this summer. He came off the bench against England, but then started the next 2 games, the draws with Slovenia and Denmark. But this player is the player that you have to watch out for the most. Former Benfica player, absolutely quality on the ball, without the ball. So he's somebody that Stephen Bradley, I'm sure, will be pinpointing as a person to watch. But that being said, they have Varinha on the bench, former Portuguese left back, and Stefan Schwab as well, an Austrian international. So look, they have internationals dotted all over the pitch, and it's going to be a really tough game. But like you both have said, it's they can just go out and express themselves, enjoy the occasion, but definitely have the game head on. Keep the tie as positive as possible, bringing it back to Tallaght, and then you never know what might happen.
Yeah, apparently we're not allowed to use the word free hit, so take that one out of the dictionary now. Anyway, now the great thing from a League of Ireland perspective, it's not just Shamrock Rovers. St. Pat's have also qualified for the Conference League playoff round after 2-0 aggregate win over FC Sabah of Azerbaijan after Thursday's second leg in Baku when they won 1-0, and they secure 1.28 million in UEFA prize money as well, which will be very helpful for the club. And they will now go on to face Istanbul Basaksehir, again similarly to PAOK, another team that are kind of used to playing at the highest level in Europe. And in the away leg, Conan, I suppose, Zach El Bouzedi gets the headlines in a sense, but also dealing with the conditions. It was 30 degrees heat, according to our match reporter, Dylan O'Connell. Felt like a literal cauldron. It's a tight, compact stadium. So while they were going in with a 1-0 lead into that away leg, the circumstances were kind of tricky enough in terms of trying to preserve that and try and push on.
Yeah, and before we get into even that game, a lot of the fans the previous week were raging that the Pats didn't score a few more goals than the one that they got in Celje, because they fully deserved to go 2-3-0 up heading to Azerbaijan. So that was playing on the minds of a lot of the fans, and I'm sure it was creeping into some of the players' minds as well, considering the heat and the conditions that you mentioned over in Azerbaijan. It was going to be really difficult for the Pats players to play in. But the sending off of Sofian Shakla after 27 minutes was a key turning point in the game, I felt. I thought, although Pat soaked up that early pressure, they were really good on the counter-attack, there was still moments of quality from Sabah in those early spells in the game. And the fact that they went down to 10 men, they still kept possession of the ball really well. So with 11 for 90 minutes, I think it might have been a different story. I'm not saying that they wouldn't have got through, but certainly wouldn't have been as comfortable, especially when Zach El Bouzedi scored minutes into the second half. And like I've said before, over and over again, is that that dynamic wing play that Stephen Kenny has been renowned for over the years in the League of Ireland has come to the fore now with St. Pat's, bringing in El Bouzedi from AIK on one wing and then keeping Mulroney out wide, which is a key impact that St. Pat's needed to do on the other. And they combined for the goal to send them through. And it's just something that I think St. Pat's lacked, was that creative spark in the final third through the course of the season. And now they're unbeaten in 6 games, unbeaten in Europe in 4. It's a huge turnaround. And there was talk of where was the bounce back when Stephen Kenny came in? Well, here it is. They've obviously got through 2 rounds. The club owner is all about Europe. He loves getting through a couple of rounds in Europe, Gareth Kelleher, and now he's done that. Look, they're coming up against unbelievable opposition in the next round. It'll be a huge task for them to get through, being completely honest with it. But stranger things have happened. I don't think many people expected Pats to get through this tie, and they did quite comfortably. So, look, you never know with Stephen Kenny and his tactical astuteness and how he sets up his teams in Europe, not just at Pats, but in his former clubs as well at Dundalk. You never know what might happen. So, best of luck to them.
Yeah, and Barry, I suppose in terms of even the goal itself that El Bouzedi scored, I think there was a bit of a deflection there off the defender as it went in, but the actual construction of the goal itself, the patience, spreading it out wide, it was actually it was a lovely goal to watch.
Yeah, and they're outstanding in both legs. Like, you just have to look at how good Sabah actually were. They scored 6 goals against Maccabi Haifa in the last round, and Pats have come away with 2 clean sheets here, but it's just their inventiveness that they're in these European ties. It's stark, like Shamrock Rovers, a stark contrast to their league form. And they were so dominant, as Conan said in the first leg, that you got a bit of a feeling coming away thinking, yeah, this may be still there for Sabah. And you just look what Stephen's done now. He's traditionally got with his wingers from down through Dundalk and the Irish team, and Mulroney, El Bouzedi and Palmer, they're just so dynamic and have such pace, and you put Mason Mealy into the mix as well, and that's a potent front four, as you'll see, and anywhere in an Irish team. And he just got the spine of this team together. He's got Joseph Anang, who's been a massive addition in goal for them, Joe Redmond, Tom Gravosti back in centre, and you've got Jamie Lennon holding that. They've just got talent now everywhere. You've got Forrester starting to maybe hit a bit of form now. He maybe said himself this hasn't been great a season, but he's starting to hit a bit of form now in Europe, where he always seems to thrive, and that spine of the team is really there. And when you've got that front five, you've got a great chance going into the next leg.
Yeah, and let's listen to Stephen Kenny. He was looking ahead to the Istanbul Basaksehir game. So this was speaking at the press conference.
The next round is really a gateway to sort of a brilliant series of brilliant occasions. So you have to prepare now for that next week. and we just had a meeting with staff in there after about how we're going to prepare for next week, and so we need to get ready now and get ready for next week. Well, again, I haven't looked at the opposition, but I think when the opportunity exists for you to get into the group stages, that's a life changer for players. Like, you might have one game in Europe and you're knocked out. Like to have 12 games in Europe in a given season is tough. Just creates a lot of special moments for families, for all of the people who are part of the football journey. Creates really amazing memories, and that's what we must strive to. We've had that tonight with an amazing win, but got to have a next week, obviously, a step up again in going into Istanbul and a bigger club again, and we've got to fight fire with fire and come up with a plan to cause them problems.
Well, that's encouraging, I suppose, Conan, where he's talking about fighting fire with fire. Obviously, as you said, Istanbul Basaksehir, they're going to be tough opposition. They won the Turkish League in 2020. They've generally been in and around the top end of it over the last few years, but just they don't seem as star-studded this time round. I think Piontek, the former AC Milan striker, is probably the most well known. If you look through the squad, he was playing in the Euros as a backup to Lewandowski. But they're still, regardless of who's in the squad, it's still going to be, it's an underdog story there for Pats.
Yeah, and I love the sentiments from Stephen Kenny there talking about the actual what it means to the players, because I think we forget about that sometimes, and you think about the club and the financial windfalls that it will bring to the club, but I think the players sometimes get missed out, maybe from a media perspective, from a fan perspective, of what it means to them. Like, I only got the chance to play 11, 12 games in Europe, and yet Shamrock Rovers and possibly St. Pat's will get that in one particular season, like Stephen Kenny said. And financially, it's unbelievable for them as players, because they put their heart and soul. They're professional footballers. Obviously, it's a dream job for a lot of young boys and girls around the country, and grown men that would have wanted to become a footballer back in the day. But at the same time, there's a lot of things that are needed to become a professional footballer. There's a lot of lifestyle changes that you need to make, sacrifices at home. So this is a huge thing for players as well. And I was delighted to see the sentiments there that Stephen Kenny has spoken about in his interview. But in terms of the game itself, yeah, it's going to be key. You mentioned Piontek there, former AC Milan, Hertha Berlin striker, sold for 36 million euro back from Genoa to AC Milan in Serie A. Scored in the Euros actually against Austria in the 3-1 defeat. He's their main man. But like you said, I think that they've dipped in terms of their players and how good they are. Turkish internationals obviously dotted again all over the pitch, especially in midfield. A lot of experience in there. I think the youngest midfielder is 26. Oldest is around 33, 34. So there's a lot of experience in that central of the park. So that's going to be an interesting area of the battle with Jamie Lennon, Ramal Palmer, maybe Keane Levy. But obviously Chris Forster will have to play. And like Barry said, he's admitted it. He's been terrible this season. I think a lot of people have jumped on that as well. I've in me included. I said he's had a poor season from his perspective, but over the last number of games, especially in Europe, he's turning on, and that's what you want from your better players. And he has done that, especially last week in Sabah. I thought he was outstanding. So yeah, it's a really important game. Like last 16. Istanbul got to the last 16 of the Europa Conference League, not last year, the year before. So they do still have that European pedigree and they'll want to get there again. Like, they'll go into this game thinking that the game is already won, and that they'll be eyeing for group stages and progress in that. So it'll be a huge disappointment from them if they can't get through this tie. Unforeseen, really, but with Pats, anything is possible.
Yeah, for the moment, anyway, Shamrock Rovers' journey goes on well into the winter in terms of Europe, and Pats will be hoping for the same if they can pull off a shock result in the FAI Cup. Of course, journeys 8 teams are through to the quarterfinals, and the draw on Tuesday, tomorrow, basically the 20th of August, and Wexford, Derry City, Drogheda United, Shelbourne, Treaty United, Athlone Town, UCD, and Bohemians are going to be in that. And I suppose Barry, starting off with Shells, I mean, both themselves and Derry City, they both have had a lot of work to do to get into the quarterfinals in terms of the performances they had over the weekend. I suppose Shell's even more so, given it went all the way to penalties. But I suppose one thing that we can take away from it is Aidan O'Brien was a bit of a fox in the box in one of his early appearances.
Yeah, but he's paid back his first week's wages anyway. But it was a pretty poor game for 90 minutes. It was kind of a drab affair, really. And Shells looked tired. Galway were their usual selves. The long ball throw into the box, the free kicks put right into the 6-yard box. But listen, it's all about getting through these ties. Cup games, there's always a game. And Lowell, there's always seemed to be, when you win a cup as well, there's always a penalty shootout along the way. We had it with Pats in 2021, beat Cork down on a penalty shootout. There always seems to be one, just kind of these little hurdles you get over to go and win a cup. And again, Shells have got over it. It's a good goal, as I said, from Aidan O'Brien, and Jimmy Keown scored 4 minutes to go in an extra time to force it to penalties. But I always felt that Shells were going to come through the penalties. Just the standard of players they had gone up to take the penalties. I just felt like they're always going to get through it. And again, maybe the double's still on.
Yeah, and I suppose even as a goalkeeper, I know Brendan Clark came out on the wrong side of it, but he took a hell of a penalty.
He's got that in the locker, though. I remember he took one against Sligo as well. Liam Buckley, I think, was kind of dismay at the time. He told Brennan he was taken in a league match a couple of years ago. No one else knew it, so we saw him strolling down the pitch. We're like, what's going on here? But he's such a clean striker of the ball, Brendan Clark. Conan will tell you from years of playing with him that you knew where he was going. You knew he was going to the keepers, and Conor Kearns knew where he was going as well. He just hits it so well. And goalkeepers are so used to hitting balls from that distance as well at each other that it was kind of natural to him. And see, you saw on the day he struck it really well.
Yeah, I think even Conor Kearns was kind of appreciative of it as well.
Didn't take one back.
Yeah, I suppose on the other side of it, for Derry City, Conan, Sam Todd heads in the winner, but this is from a Cork City point of view as well. I know they're out of the cup, but we're going to be seeing them in the Premier Division next season, and even I suppose their strike force and everything, the new look one, sort of taking shape as well.
Yeah, I'm with Derry City. They're the only team that have the possibility of winning. If they get knocked out, we'll have a new FAI Cup winner for the first time in 16 years. Going back, if Bows win it, 2008. So that's an interesting angle as well, that Derry are kind of holding that FAI Cup kind of mantle, because it was Shamrock Rovers, it was Dundalk for a while, Cork, Derry beat Shelbourne obviously a couple of years ago, and back to Pats back in 2012 as well. So yeah, you always like to see an underdog, don't you, get doing well in the FAI Cup. I know when Sporting Fingal did it as a first division side back in 2009, there's a real possibility that could happen again, considering there's 4 teams left in it in the quarterfinal. If the Premier Division teams meet each other, you never know what might happen. But yeah, it was you know what, I was delighted for Sam Todd, and the reason being obviously in the Bank Holiday Monday clash at Tolka Park, where he was sent off stupidly, as well for those two silly yellow cards that he received. So to bounce back from that, come off the bench and put in an unbelievable header into the far corner to win the game for Derry, and potentially put them on a great run now to get into another FAI Cup final. It was huge for him, and it was do his confidence the world of good. With Cork, yeah, they're planning for next year. Raf, obviously, it would have been great for them to get a bit of a cup run this season, but signing the likes of Keating and Maguire just goes to show what type of potent strike force they'll have next season. So interesting to see how they recruit as well, because they're not finished. They'll need to recruit in other areas of the pitch, and but with Derry, I don't think they're good enough to win the league. I've said that all year. So the FAI Cup might be their successful time.
Yeah, and then there's of course Athlone and UCD, as I said, going into the quarter-final draw, but at the expense of Waterford and Sligo Rovers, 2 teams who have been, Sligo especially more recently, Barry, who have been in really good form. So there'd be kind of huge disappointment, I guess, for those clubs. There was an opportunity there in terms of going on a cup run and potentially going all the way, given what they've done this season. But obviously that's extinguished now. That should be a huge disappointment, I'd imagine.
Yeah, definitely. And after seeing the results on Friday night as well, and a couple of the bigger teams going out, you would have thought, I was just disappointed. I really thought to be a provincial team in it this year, the likes of a Waterford or a Sligo, and to see what kind of fan base they bring as well, because we've had the Bows and Pats kind of couple of cup finals where there's been massive crowds with it, but you want to see that progression throughout the league and what these teams would bring fan-wise to the cup final as well. And it's a huge chance for Sligo. It's just such a bad performance as well. It wasn't as if UCD hit them on the counter for 2 attacks. Like, they were they were very good in the game, and the same for Waterford as well. Like they were just so disappointing in the game, and obviously it's such a controversial red card for Leahy, I think it was. He adjudged to have punched one of the players, but looking back from the different angle, I don't see it anywhere. I don't know what the referee's seen in that situation, but for both teams, that's such a huge loss and a huge miss this season.
In the Women's Premier Division, Athlone beat Shelburne 2-1, coming from behind, with Brenda Tabe and Kerry-Ann Brown scoring the two goals that turned it around. And then their manager, Kieran Kilduff, was speaking to Pat Costello afterwards on their win, but also an injury to a key player in Chloe Singleton.
Well, Kieran, congratulations on the victory. Have you had time to gather your thoughts yet?
No, not really. I think, we lost a player today in the first half in Chloe Singleton with one of those horrible visual breaks, and I'm gutted for her, to be honest. I think we spoke about it at half time. Chloe gets a horrific injury, and then we concede a minute later, and you're kind of going, they had every excuse to give up. We all did after a moment like that, but they didn't, and they dug out. And we spoke about maybe trying to do it for Chloe and to come out on the top of the tie in the end. And I'm proud to be able to go down to her now on the matter and see her. And I know she's having an operation now already, but I hope when she wakes up I get to tell her that we won.
All right, so that's Athlone town manager Kieran Kilduff there, speaking after their very important win over Shelburne. We'll look at the table very shortly here, but the other result from the weekend, Wexford and Peamount drawing 1-1, and Athlone, with that victory, they go 3 points clear of Shells at the top. Galway United are 9 points behind them, but have 3 games in hand, and one of the reasons they have a huge amount of games in hand, of course, is their progress through the Avenir Sport All-Island Cup, and they won it at the weekend on Saturday, beating Shamrock Rovers on penalties after a 0-0 draw at Tala Stadium. Second year in a row that Phil Trill's Galway have won the trophy. It was a good game as well. Quite cagey, maybe a little bit in the first half, but then second, Shamrock Rovers seemed to maybe be edging it, and Stephanie Zambra had a chance that was saved low down in the corner before it went to penalties. And of course, Galway, huge progress they've been making as a club in recent years. So congrats to them. But also the weekend saw the Premier League returning. Obviously, since the Euros, it probably hasn't felt like there's been a huge gap, and that was probably to be seen in some of the starting lineups. So Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool all starting with 2-0 wins against a varied cast of opposition, Conan. And how much of this did you see, and I suppose what did you make of some of the performances?
Yeah, I watched Man City Chelsea yesterday, the full 90 minutes of that. Arsenal Wolves didn't, just the highlights of Arsenal Wolves and Liverpool and Ipswich. But with in terms of the Chelsea game and Man City, I was particularly impressed with Savinho until he got injured. Thought he was really good. Seems like a bargain buy for Pep Guardiola, even though he cost another 30-40 million pounds. But I had to agree with Gary Neville on co-coms with Bernardo Silva. Obviously, he took over the mantle of Rodri's position, and he was absolutely sensational. Just in terms of his leadership, his communication, you could see it from where we were watching the game, that his whole decision making, I think, is where he stands out more than anybody. And that's what I felt. That's how they won the midfield battle. Caicedo, Lavia did okay in Chelsea. I think it's his first start for Chelsea since his move from Southampton last August. But I just think Silva had that brain that they just couldn't get near him, and created space for De Bruyne and Doku and Savinho when he was on, and it just let Man City run at them. Nicholas Jackson, the Chelsea forward, is just I don't know, there's something about him because he's strong, he can hold the ball up, he's physical, but he just can't score goals. He gets into great positions but just can't score. But in terms of just Man City looks so dominant, just with the players that they don't even have in the side already, and who they can bring in. They just look as if they're gonna do it again. But I think Chelsea and Maresca is having a huge issue with the size of their squad, Raf. I think that's going to be key. Obviously, through the game yesterday, Raheem Sterling puts out a statement, which is ridiculous. Putting out a statement like that during a football match that his teammates are playing in. 20, I think they could play 11. I think there was a screenshot of 11 players that could be playing that weren't even in the squad. So I think that's going to be a big issue at Chelsea going forward, and they're going to have to let go some of those players before the transfer window, because it's just not going to work.
Yeah, no, it's a bit cumbersome at the moment. Obviously City played without Rodri, who of course won the Euros and isn't fully fit at this stage. But Liverpool not playing. Well, they've been obviously looking for a six. Zubamendi being one of those, Barry, I suppose, that they were looking at, but he's not going to be leaving Real Sociedad. But what did you make of their overall performance against Ipswich? Because I think a lot of people afterwards seemed to be quite impressed by what they saw in this first game for Arne Slot.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was a game of two halves, really. And Arne Slot talked about it afterwards, how he had to have words at half time and he took off Kwanzaa. He made no bones about it. Let it be known after why he took him off as well. But I like to see that. I like to see him ruffle a few fellas early on in his tenure. I think I've watched him a few times in training sessions, keeping an eye out on Vidislav Jaros and Pilaluga, the goalkeepers, and I've watched how he is with players. And he's playing with Trent Alexander-Arnold, and he's doing games and getting kind of that man management side of things. But he's got to put his foot down when it matters as well, and he did that yesterday. He made it known he wasn't happy. He brought Konate in, and he was excellent. He started winning those aerial duels, and that's what he was talking about, how Ipswich went man for man all over the pitch, and Liverpool just got no space at all. And then Konate started winning the aerial duels, got Liverpool further up the pitch. He started to tuck Alexander-Arnold a little bit in, more on the left, kind of from that right back position, and he just got some great space in there, and he put an excellent ball in for Salah to set up the first goal as well. But yeah, I've liked the way they've looked, and he's like, there was a bit of kind of furore about his signing Slot as a manager and what he brings to the team. And when you look at his time at Feyenoord, he's a history of developing players on relatively tight budgets as well. And obviously the Zubamendi thing not come to fruition was the main player he wanted. But when you look at for Sociedad, well, it looks like Moreno now, that other midfielder, as didn't play at the weekend. Looks like he could be going to Arsenal. So, they're not going to lose two of their midfielders. Maybe there was a word there that listen, you hold on for another year, you'll get the big move next year, or could there be soundings from someone closer to home and in Madrid maybe came in at the last minute and said, hold on a season and we'll look after you next year. So you don't know what goes through a player's mind when those kind of situations occur, but be a big blow for them because that's a position they need to fill. That's that defensive centre midfielder. So we'll see how they get on without him.
Yeah, and Sam Szmodics, of course, made the move to Ipswich just shortly before that game, and he did come on against Liverpool on 73 minutes, sort of playing off the left out of position. But of course, that won't be his natural role when they're on the ball, Conan. But I suppose overall, you can't really judge him off that performance anyway, because he wasn't on the pitch for that long. It's his first appearance. It'll take a while before Ipswich get used to the Premier League, and also he does as well. But what did you make of the move when you heard about it, Conan?
Yeah, look, it's another Irish player in the Premier League. I think that's the way I look at it, in the sense that he'll play as well. It's not just a case that he's going up to fill a bench. I think he's going to play in this Ipswich side, and as well, just in terms of his pre-season, has been excellent. When he started the season, obviously with Blackburn, getting a couple of goals, and that's really important for him then in terms of getting his move to Ipswich and hitting the ground running. And I think that's what Sammy will want more so than anything else, is getting an early goal in the next couple of weeks. But I think they have Man City next, don't they? So it's a really tough ask over the next couple of games. But I think McKenna will be pretty happy with his side's performance yesterday or on Saturday, because that first half they were really good, and it was just that little tactical switch that Arne Slot made that changed the game. McKenna will take a lot of notes from that game, a lot of positivities, and use them going forward in his time in the Premier League. That's going to be the main aim. It's just to consolidate the position, and stay away from that bottom three. But it'll be a tough job for him, and in terms for goals for Sammy too.
Yeah, and I suppose the first game of the weekend in terms of the Premier League, Barry, was of course Manchester United edging out Fulham with a late winner from Joshua Zirkzee. Overall, I mean, they had a pretty terrible year last year, bar obviously the FA Cup win, which probably played a significant role in Erik ten Hag staying in the job. And since then, it's an interesting dynamic in terms of who they've bought. I think they're probably not trying to focus in and around a manager in certain ways. And then you look at the signings and they're very much what you would say Ten Hag signings, players he knows. But I think Gary Neville was making the point that the age profile of a lot of those players means even if Ten Hag isn't really there in the long term, that'd be useful to whoever comes next, or have a sort of, this kind of sell-on ability. But overall, what have you made of their start? It's probably too early to judge in terms of where their ambitions are going to be.
Yeah, they kind of looked a bit all over the shop in pre-season, so you're wondering what way they were going to come back in. I think that's going to be an issue for a lot of teams now that they're getting back so late coming into these. You're almost have another 3 or 4 weeks of pre-season in these opening round of games before you actually see teams settling down. But for Man United, I think the sign of the summer has been Dan Ashworth as sporting director, as Gary Neville alluded to. He's changed that culture already around signings and what is perceived in value for money. Euro, De Ligt, Xerxes, Mazraoui. The oldest of those is 26, like all really good ages. And I still think they're lined up top, and they're probably going to have to go and get a goal scorer somewhere. But I don't think they'll just go and buy anyone now in this window. I think those days are going out the window. They'll put trust in Hoiberg of Hoyland, sorry, up front. And kind of you saw yesterday Fernandez playing as a false nine, really. So they do have options in there, and they're trying to implement this kind of this new way of playing as well, getting bodies around Casemiro. But he played lovely football. Like, Leno was in, should have been out of sight really, but for a couple of great saves from Leno as well. But yeah, really good performance from Man United.
Yeah, so it bodes well in terms of it being a really interesting season, especially with the three teams that you'd kind of expect at the top, whether it be Arsenal, City, and Liverpool, kind of going well, and then if United, and we'll see what Spurs are like tonight as well, and Newcastle obviously started off with a narrow win as well, and whether they can push on. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, before we go, just want to express condolences to the family of Jim McLaughlin, who has died aged 83. As a manager, the Derry City native won the league a record 8 times for Dundalk, Shamrock Rovers, and his hometown Derry City, which was a treble in 1989, and also won the league with Shelbourne and multiple FAI Cups. In all, he amassed 18 major trophies. But Conan, I think the esteem he's held in, you got a sense of that just after it was announced that he passed away.
Yeah, so I'm on the committee of the Irish Professional Footballers Benevolent Association. So chairperson there is Harry McHugh, and I don't know what former player put it into the group that he had passed away, but just in the sense of, like you say, how highly regarded is amongst those former players, was testament to what Jim McLaughlin has done for League of Ireland football. Like you said, he spent 16 and a half years in England, I think, and came home to player manage Dundalk. And then in 9 years, won 3 leagues and 3 FAI Cups, including 2 doubles. Like, he loved winning a double. He won 2 doubles at Shamrock Rovers and then won the treble at Derry City. Like, an unbelievable manager. I only got the pleasure of meeting him at award ceremonies, where he was always awarded something for his contribution to Irish football. Just a huge loss to the domestic game here, but also a huge loss in terms of what I sensed from that WhatsApp group from people that really loved them. So yeah, very sad.
Yeah, highly decorated, and obviously, as you said, huge impact within the game in Ireland. Will be remembered forever, I guess, and I suppose thoughts with his family, friends, and those who knew him, of course. But I think that brings us to a close here on this week's podcast, and we'll be back next Monday. Conan, thanks very much for your time, and Barry also, thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.